Welcome to Hedgehog Hollow. Today we're going to be showing you my TGIF challenge entry, which is a beautiful Valentine's Day card that I've got here. It's got lots and lots of detail that we're going to go into with some tips and tricks for stamping on vellum. We've got some tone-on-tone glitter stamping with heat embossing, and then we're going to do these beautiful stamped things on the inside too, and we've got this gorgeous little bow detail that you can add just for the right touch. So let's get started. So I'm going to pop our sample to the side for now. Now I've got everything pre-cut, so we have half a sheet of A4, and you could also use half a sheet of 8.5 by 11, which will just give you marginally different dimensions. All the cutting recipe, as always, is on the blog, so www.hedgehoghollow.co.uk, and there is a link underneath this video as well, so you can look at it there too. And what I've done is just scored this in the middle and folded it in half. I've got a quarter of the Stampin' Up! Vellum, which is a nice thick vellum to stamp onto. I have a piece to do our glittery heart on, and then this is for our insert later on. So I've also cut out here using the layering alphabet, the L, V and the E. The heart is from the Sweet and Sassy framelits. So I have used this one here. So that's just like the second to smallest size in one of the sets. So you can do that perfectly, and you'll see how nicely they'll line up. And I've done a silver version here because I think that's a bit more masculine. And then we had the gold on the original sample that you can also copy. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to stamp on our vellum. Now to stamp on my vellum, I'm going to be using my MISTI, which is just far side over here. There we go. And the reason I'm going to use my MISTI for this with my diagonal stripe is because stamping on vellum is a bit of a dark art, I think. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and so the best way I find with the MISTI, I can keep going back over and over again and it's absolutely fine. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to line up my stamp on my vellum to make sure it's all over, and the stamp is bigger than my vellum, so I'm just going to put it there. And I'm lining the stamp up with the corner. Then I'm going to press nice and firmly and hopefully pick my stamp up. And then I'm going to, rather than put my magnets on here, I'm going to grab some temporary adhesive. So these are just fast fuse easy dots, and this is laminated here. So if I put mine one square in either way, nice and straight. And I can take this off afterwards and you'll never know it was there because my magnets would obscure the impression from my stamp. Now when stamping on vellum, you can either use the Stampin' Up! Archival or you can use StazOn. It is a personal preference. StazOn is a little bit thicker. If you want to go with archival, you'll need to do it a few times over. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to ink up my stamp here, which takes a little bit of work. Now when I did my sample, I also tried doing it with a brayer, but I didn't find that was any better than just being really generous with my archival pad. Then I'm going to stamp it down and I'm going to give it a really good press. And I still, even though I know it's a MISTI and everyone says you don't need to, I still get my brayer out. So let me just grab that here, and I'll link to this speedball brayer that I'm using here in my blog post. And I will also link to the MISTI. And of course the repositionable tape, so you can use all of those. And then I'm going to lift that up. And I have a pretty good impression, but I'm going to do it once more because this is a finer ink than the StazOn. If you do it with the StazOn, sometimes you get it first time, but sometimes it can also squelch out and be a bit gloopy. So I'm just inking this back up again. And I always put the lid back on because I'm a klutz when it comes to these things. And of course that's the great thing with the MISTI, is I can stamp this as many times as I like. It will always be in the same position, so it's much easier than in having to get it right first time, and it takes all that guesswork out with these nice detailed stamps. So there we go. Oh, let's move slightly, but I'm pretty happy with that. Now very carefully remove your vellum because it is going to be very wet because it's non-porous, and I'm just going to use my stamp chamois, which again I will link to, just to remove some of those black marks so we don't get them on anything else in a moment. And I'm also going to very carefully remove this stamp, and I will clean it afterwards. So I'm just going to put that out of reach. So to dry this, I am going to use my heat tool. And the only way I can do this, because of the fine detail, is I'm going to hold it with my tweezers very carefully on that edge. And again, I will link to my tweezers. I particularly love these. These give me a lot of control for adding diamantes and things. So if you have the same issue. And this had a lovely point on them. I don't know if you can see the nice point. But when I'm here, I can just hold it down in a nice fine space. And this will take quite a while to dry. I'm going to try and do it as quickly as I can here. There we go. And you'll see that the sheen goes off the vellum and the black areas as it dries. If you left this to air dry, it would probably be at least an overnight job to get it as dry so that it didn't get fingerprinty. So I'm just making sure that when I touch it in a minute, you don't get anything on it. I'm just going to pick this up. By tilting it, you'll see areas that you can't see when it's flat that are still wet. I think that's pretty dry, but I'm just going to leave it to the side while we do our other stamping, just in case, just for the moment. So I'm going to take my larger piece of real red here. I'm going to take my hardwood stamp, and again I'm going to use the MISTI. So it still has my repositionable tape on it. So the best way to remove the repositionable tape from the MISTI is you can either just rub it off with your fingers, and it comes off perfectly fine. You can use a drop of Goo Gone on some paper towel, or you could use one of the adhesive rubbers. They're really good as well, so there's a little bit left over. So I'm just going to pick that off with the adhesive rubber. And then I'm going to pop my panel down again. I'm going to pop my wood grain on top. And because I'm going to have exactly the same issue, I'm also going to put some repositionable back onto this one, because I forgot I needed it a second time. And again, I'm going to line it in one square and one square, like so. And that fits perfectly. So then I'm going to use my embossing buddy to go all over, just to make sure there's no static, and I also just go slightly over the edge to make sure they don't stick there. Then I'm going to generously use my Versamark all over my wood grain, because I want to get all those nice nooks and crannies in there. And I'm going to fold over and I'm going to press down, and again I'm going to grab my brayer and then gently lift it up. And I'm going to do it once more. There's a couple of patches I can see there. They're a little bit lighter than I would like them to be. So again, I'm going to ink it up just on those few areas. Get my brayer. And you could just do it with your fingers, but this gives you a nice even pressure, and it makes sure you get all those little details. There we go. And again, just quickly, I'm going to wipe it over to get rid of any Versamark that's left. And I'm going to take my adhesive rubber and just get rid of that little bit of temporary adhesive on here. And then I'm going to use my real red glitter embossing powder from Stampin' Up, that is the carryover from the Christmas holiday catalogues, and I'm just going to tip it all over. You can imagine what my work surface looks like after doing some of these cards for Valentine's Day. And the thing with some of these detailed stamps is you do find you put powder on, you flick it to make sure you've got the residue off, then you go back, you try it again, and it may take you just a few attempts to make sure you've got all the detail that you want. I'm just going to put it to the side, and I just flick the back to make sure any residue has gone. You can see here I've made a total mess in my workspace. Let's just get that out of the way. And I also will link to these trays. I love them for embossing. Absolutely perfect. Really easy to use. They're from Judikins, and I've had mine for years and years and years. And actually Amazon have them on sale. I think they're $3 for 3 at the minute, which is really good value. And put those out of the way, and I'm going to grab my tweezers because again there's nowhere to hold this cardstock while we heat it. And I'm just going to heat set like normal embossing powder. The only thing with the glitter embossing powder is it's slightly harder to see when it has cooked, but you will see a transition. There we go, it's now cooking. My tool is nice and hot. Now if you heat this embossing powder, this glitter embossing powder too long, you will get white flecks in it. That means you've burnt it. So just a word of caution there. And I do mine in strips, so I try and do a plank on each pass. We're about halfway down. And I'm just on the bottom one. And I'm just going to turn this around and do one more pass on this top piece here. And I'm going to give everything across and hope that I caught it all because we're on camera. And hopefully I don't rub any of it off in a second. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to cut out. So let me put my wood grain stamp to the side for cleaning after the video. And I'm going to grab, so I have my Sweet and Sassy. This is the biggest heart in the Sweet and Sassy. And this one has the more tapered bottom to it. And I'm going to choose a piece that I like, and you can spend some time faffing about deciding which bit of wood grain you want to include. And I'm just going to pass that through my big shot with a normal thinlet sandwich. There we go. And then we have our heart. You have to excuse me, I've got a terrible cold that's going around our family at the minute. And this is really nice to keep. So I used this on a card for Maddie's teacher, a thank you card. And then I put some bits and pieces and I used it as an aperture. So I would keep that piece, it's really pretty. So I'm just going to pop that out of the way. Now hopefully my hands don't come out back. No, excellent. Then I'm going to cut this down to what I want on my card front size. So you'll see that this is marginally wider than I actually want it, so I'm just going to trim a piece off the bottom. And I tend to trim, I love this trimmer, I've had 2 of these now. The first one only broke because I had a child drop it on the floor. One of my children, I would hasten to add, not somebody else's. And this is my second one. It was a little bit difficult to find, but I found them now on Amazon. I absolutely love it. It's a rotary blade. You can also get curvy blades and pinky blades and all sorts of things. But it goes all the way out to 15 inches down here. And it's 13 inches wide, so you can more than cut your scrapbook pieces in. And you can get smaller cards making size one. I've tried the Stampin' Up one. I've tried lots of them, but that is still my favourite. So I've lost my card base. Here we go. So now we can start sticking everything together, which is the best bit. Let's move that one out of the way. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my snail and I'm going to layer up my red piece for the inside. So this is just a quarter sheet, or whether you use 8.5 by 11 or A4, and then I cut a quarter off the top and a quarter off one side, except my paper size is slightly different, but that's on this one it worked perfectly. And then on my white, exactly the same, so a quarter piece, and you cut 3/4 of an inch off the top and 3/4 of an inch off one side, and that's how you get your perfect sizes for matting. There we go. Then for our vellum, I'm going to use some glue dots. So I have them here, so I'm just going to pick them off quickly. So I'm just using one on each corner, like so. And I'm going to stick that onto the front of our card. Now I like to open mine up when I do this part. There we go. Perfect. Pardon me. Excuse me. Then I'm going to use my snail, and I'm going to stick on my heart, and that's just again in the centre. And then we can stick our letters. So we've got our L, our O as a heart, our V, and our E. I feel like Carol Vorderman moment. Those in England will know what I mean. There's a show called Countdown, and she pulls out letters. So that's that. And then I'm going to grab some of my dimensionals and some snips. My nice sharp snips here. And I'm going to, that's enough for the L, the whole one's on that. Then we need, I will show you what I'm thinking in my mind in just a second. The and E. So for my L, I cut myself a long piece off the edge, and that goes along here. Then I cut a single half hexagon, and that goes perfectly along here. Then I cut myself, try to pick it up, a long piece. Ooh, I picked up a whole one. They go on my V, and then I had a long piece for my E. Ooh, turn it over. These are little Gingham sewing scissors that I use for ribbon and for small sharp things that I need. Again, I will link to them if you are interested in a really good pair of sharp scissors. Then I need a piece for my E and another piece for my E, and then I'm just going to snip this one down slightly. You can imagine my craft room, you find these pieces everywhere. My poor cleaner must be cleaning them out of her vacuum for months to come. And then finally I'm just going to put a couple of whole ones. It seems to be very sticky this evening. Onto my O, my heart, and then I'm going to stick it down. So my tip for sticking this down is stick down your L and your E first at the two outer corners with my L. Then I'm going to align my E. Like so. And that one's just marginally over. This is why I love these, these are so sharp. There we go. So I can just shave little bits off like that. So then I put my E on the other end and line it up as best as I can. And then I do my V and my O. And the reason for doing that is then it's much easier to get it centered. So when if you had an odd numbered number of letters in a word, I would do my two outers, then I do my middle, and then I work my way out that way. So everything tends to be fairly even. So there's my V. And now we'll put our O. Like so. So that's the outside of our card completed. And now on the inside I did some pretty stamping that I showed you earlier. So I'm just going to get some of these bits out of our way so that they don't stick to us. So I'm going to use my basic black and a block. So I used, you can see I haven't set these up yet, my favourite Love Sparkle set, which I think you all see on everything. So I'm going to use from the Layering Loves, I Am Much More Me When I'm With You, which I think is really nice sentiment for Valentine's Day. Hopefully my husband doesn't watch this card, because this may well be what he gets. And I'm going to put that on as straight as I can by eye. And you can spend much more time, so yours is perfectly straight. And then in the corner, I just put a pretty sparkly heart like that. And that's it. We're all finished. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks for joining us for this tutorial. And I hope you have fun making your own. Happy stamping, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.